Hello, Daryl Ruiter. Now, who's Daryl Ruiter brought to us by there, Owen?
Scheibman Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store.
Were you treating your hickeys, Daryl?
No, I was not.
Okay. Well, it would be rather sexy if you did.
I don't know why you guys are on that topic, but...
But we were waiting on you, Daryl.
Well, I'm off today, so...
Whoa! Doing us a favor. Okay, yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that. All right. You're doing us a favor. Thank you very much, Dangerous Daryl. I did not know you were off today, so I apologize. All right, let me throw a name by you here, okay? You ready?
Yeah.
Well, first off, do you think we're getting Jim Schwartz back?
Probably not.
Okay. I don't think so either. And, some people disagreed with me because I'm like, yeah, I really don't know if I'd take him back. And the reason is because if anybody knows how upsetting a disgruntled coordinator could be, it's Todd Monkin.
Yeah.
So you kind of want everybody as close to on the same page as you can. So maybe it's just best if we make a break and we can get a late round draft pick. Fine. A lot of defensive coordinator names are thrown out there, and this wouldn't be the biggest one, but somebody tweeted at me yesterday and go, you know what? I love it, and I wish I want to give credit to that person, so I'm going to go look in here after I ask you. What about bumping up Jason Tarver? He's been the defensive coordinator before the Oakland Raiders for a few years. He was a defensive coordinator before even in college. I know that the defensive players really, really, really like and respect Jason Tarver. Obviously, I think media likes and respects Jason Tarver. Do you think that Todd Monkin could give him a whirl?
Yeah, potentially. I was thinking maybe looking at Ephraim Banda, too.
Okay.
Who also, I believe, had one or two defensive coordinator interviews this cycle. He's thought to be an up-and-comer rising star as well. So, yeah, I think either one of those guys are certainly worth taking a look. Tarver's been in the league a while, similar to Monkin, right? 21 years, something like that. So he's been around a long time in the NFL. So it is going to be interesting to see how Monkin fills out the coordinator staff. And, of course, that's part of the interview process, too, is laying out a vision for the coaching staff. Now, obviously, the Browns, I think, went into this particular hire thinking that Jim Schwartz was going to stay defensively, and a lot of that defensive staff was going to stay in place. And based on how Schwartz reacted, which was very negatively to not getting the job and whatnot, most likely he will be moving on, and I would anticipate a large chunk of that staff will move on as well. But Monkin's been around a while. He knows a lot of people around the NFL. His Rolodex certainly is a lot deeper than a guy like Nate Scheelhaus. So I don't think he's going to have too much problem filling out the coaching staff. It might take him a little time to do it. There are 10 openings around the NFL. Let's not forget that. This went from this might not be the offseason to replace your head coach to, well, a third of the NFL decided to replace their head coaches.
Chris Schleich was the guy on social media who asked me that question. Credit where it's due. I was like, that's a hell of a question. Go right on ahead, Tone.
All right, Daryl. Yesterday or over the last few days, you had said, Daryl, that you thought this would be about a 2-year experiment. Have you changed your mind, Daryl, at all?
Absolutely not. I don't think this is a long-term hire. I really don't. I almost feel like this is it's not fair to say it's similar to the Freddie Kitchens hire.
Oh, boy. That's that would actually probably be insulting considering their history to Todd Monkin.
Yeah. I think that, the exposure for guys like Nate Scheelhaus and Grant Uditsky, when you talk about a long-term hire, I don't feel like this was a long-term hire. I feel like this was, we got to pick somebody. It's been 24 days, and Todd Monkin was the guy that everybody could agree on, and so they make the hire. I think that he's going to have to win and perform. I don't feel like that there's going to be much of an appetite. And quite frankly, there shouldn't be, because you didn't have it for Kevin Stefanski. I don't think that there's going to be much of an appetite for much of a retool here or a rebuild even though that's exactly what they're going to have to do on the offensive side of the ball.
All right, Daryl. Now, yesterday we saw the news that the Kingmaker over there with the Rams decided to take on our special teams coach to overhaul their special teams, which cost him a chance at the Super Bowl. Daryl, were we wrong about Bubba Ventron? Do we have to alter our opinion now that Sean McVay has decided he wants him?
It's almost as if nobody really pays attention to the Browns. And they just don't use anything bad that happens here against anybody. It's a fascinating case study as to why that is. Because the Rams themselves they fired their special teams coordinator in the middle of the season, if I remember correctly. I mean, it was a disaster. They were having the similar situation that the Browns were having, and that was they weren't able to catch punts. I don't know what they're doing, but I listen. Bubba Ventron, very highly respected around the league, no question about that. It's part of, the Browns couldn't get him to Cleveland fast enough when they kind of got wind that he was going to become available. It's unfortunate that for 2 of the 3 years, Browns special teams were just an absolute catastrophe and disaster under him, including this past season. They couldn't block. They couldn't create any returns. They were giving up returns left and right. They were getting kicks blocked left and right. They were getting punts blocked left and right. So I whatever. I think he kind of did the Browns a little bit of a favor, but it just didn't work out with Bubba Ventron here.
I think he did us a favor there. I'm not a bit. I didn't like how he kind of threw the roster under the bus, and I said that twice
front
already.
Office under the bus. That's not leadership.
Well, yeah, but you know what? Like, you can go ahead and say what you want to about, like, if he were upset with the trade, like, say he was upset about Joe Flacco, go right on ahead. Like, you could. I think there is a difference, but when you're sitting there basically saying that they don't give me the ingredients to coach, that is, I'm sorry, you're that's your job, and if you can't get them to point B, then maybe you don't have the right players. I can understand that, but leak that to the media. Obviously, you've leaked other things to the media about how great you are. That's why people are talking about how you're one of the best ones out there. So I think you could leak that to the media and say there has to be some understanding with what he's working with. But that's not your job to say it. That really rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, well, especially behind a microphone, right?
Yeah.
And it rubbed me the wrong way too. And by the way, a lot of defensive players played special teams, and last time I checked, defense was pretty good. They got some pretty good players on that side of the ball. So what's your problem? And I know fans got really sick and tired to listen to Kevin Stefanski say, I've got to coach better. But quite honestly, like, that was the correct response from Bubba. Hey, I got to do a better job with the guys I'm given to work with here. I know we're young, but we can be better. We need to be better, and it's my job to make them better. Like, that's what you say, whether you actually truly believe that or not. And Bubba was completely unwilling to do that at the end of the season. And again, it was another sign that this thing had fallen apart, and Kevin Stefanski clearly was not going to be back because, let's be honest about it, Ken, you know Coach Stefanski as well as I do. That would be a message that Kevin would deliver to all his folks to make sure that everybody stayed in line, and we didn't have that toward the end of the season. And again, that was kind of telegraphed ultimately what ended up happening there on January 5th.
All right, Daryl, we found out that one of the questions each candidate was faced with in their essay or interview process was about Shedeur Sanders. How big of a factor do you think Shador is and was in this process and for Todd Monkin going forward?
Well, one of the questions should have been about Shedeur Sanders. There probably should have been a question about Deshaun Watson as well. And how they not so much feel about the situation, but what their take on the situation is, what their strategy would be for him coming off the ruptured Achilles. Obviously, he did it twice in a couple months, but I understand why that's a story because it's Shedeur Sanders, but I would expect nothing less from the Browns in their interview process to want to know how Shedeur Sanders' rookie season of 7.5 games, 1,400 yards passing, 7 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, a rating of around 68, a QBR that I think was south of 20. I want to know how they feel about it. Now, I do believe the hire of Todd Monkin just looking at his history and some of the quarterbacks he's worked with, I'd say that this is good news for Shedeur Sanders, because I think that Shedeur has some of those natural gifts and skill sets that Monkin can work with. Now, obviously, Shedeur's got to prove that he can do this thing, and I know a lot of folks are going to point to, hey, he was a Pro Bowler. He got named an alternate. He was also, I think, the 14th quarterback standing in the AFC, but that is on the resume now that he got to participate in the Pro Bowl games this upcoming week here. But that's not a surprise. He should have been on that fact-finding mission to get feedback on him. And again, I do feel like Monkin could be good for Shedeur Sanders.
Meredith put in the chat that hickeys are how women mark their territory. Married women don't need to do it. You're supposed to wear your ring. So that's a great point by Meredith Kane. Daryl Ruiter joining us here. Daryl is brought to you by Anthony
Shedeur Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store.
Thank you very much. Now, Daryl, when it comes to the quarterbacks, Lima's clearly just going to make me ask you the question. So, Kirk Cousins, yes or no?
Whoa!
I'm willing to look at it.
Whoa, Daryl!
I mean, they got to have a veteran, got to have a veteran plan here, right?
Your veteran plan's Deshaun Watson.
Well, I don't know that I like that veteran plan.
Well, that's the plan you get.
Beggars can't be choosers,
There's a lot of us that
Daryl.
don't like a lot of things that the Browns have, but here we are.
I know, and look, I think the fiscally responsible thing to do here is to look and see legitimately if there's something Deshaun can give you here in the final year of his contract on the field. That being said, I would probably also prefer that they have another veteran option in case they ultimately decide, hey, Shedeur really is a developmental quarterback and we don't want to put him out there for 17 games. But I've said this, I maintain it. I would like to see Shedeur Sanders get an honest crack at this thing this offseason, and he's got to earn the job. I'm not saying hand the job to him, but I want him to have a better chance at it than what he had last year. They called it a four-man quarterback competition, and the kid was throwing to ball boys during training camp because they ran out of wide receivers. And to me, that's not giving that kid a legitimate chance at the quarterback competition, which, by the way, I feel was by design. I don't think that they wanted to play Shedeur Sanders. At least Kevin Stefanski didn't want to play him. But Jimmy Haslam made it very clear in training camp, part of the goal of last season was to see both rookie quarterbacks on the field. So in that regard, mission accomplished.
Go ahead, ask him.
All right, Daryl, yesterday we heard from Chris Antonetti with the Jose Ramirez press conference. What did you make of the fact he says free agents weren't coming here even if we were going to outbid other teams because of playing time?
Yeah, the playing time thing was interesting. Look, there I think is something real to that, but also at the same time they are really committed to growing the younger players that they have coming up from the minors. That was a heavy talking point yesterday during that 35-minute press conference from Antonetti. So they're all obviously a ball club on a budget. Also interesting, folks that think that the deferred money is a savings for them right now. It's not. I actually didn't realize this, but this is similar to the NFL. Guaranteed money has to go in an escrow in the NFL. Same thing with Major League Baseball. As the contract accrues and that deferred money accrues, they have to fund it. It might not go directly to Jose Ramirez at that given moment, but they have to fund that portion of the contract. So actually there is no savings, even though there's deferred money, and I think that was a misnomer that a lot of fans had. But, yeah, they clearly want to go young this year. Jose Ramirez is going to be the centerpiece of teaching those young kids what they need to do at this level to be successful. They were young relatively last season as well. They need to be better offensively. Antonetti admitted that. I don't know that just standing pat is the way to get better, but we're going to find out this summer if, in fact, that's going to work. But he also said, guys, that they do have the flexibility to go after, to make a move during the season to go get somebody to help them out, and I think that that's an important detail folks are missing as well.
Daryl, someday you'll need a favor from me, and use this day as the reason why I have to help you in that favor. Thank you for joining us. We had no idea you were off today. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You bet, guys. Have a great weekend.
The dangerous one, Daryl Ruiter. Now, who's he brought to you by, gentlemen?
You want to say it at the same time, or?
Go ahead.
Okay. It's Scheiben Jewelers. It's Cleveland's premier jewelry store.